Star Wars Episode V: The Empire Strikes Back was released in June of 1980. Following the incredible success of Star Wars: A New Hope, expectations were high, and this movie certainly didn't disappoint. It's widely considered the best movie in the Star Wars saga by critics and fans alike. This movie took on a darker tone. The title says it all. The Empire suffered a defeat with the destruction of the Death Star, but now they're retaliating and putting the Rebel Alliance on the defensive. Like I said before, most people put Empire Strikes Back at the top of their Star Wars ranking. While I can't deny that critically speaking this movie stands above the rest, it's never been my favorite. Honestly, it's always been the movie in the original trilogy that I never really wanted to watch. That's gotta be blasphemy for any Star Wars fan to say, but it's true. I never really liked The Empire Strikes Back when I was a kid. It wasn't until later on, when the flaws of the other Star Wars movies were too noticeable to ignore, that I came to respect just how near perfect of a movie this was. This movie appeals much more to the full-grown Star Wars fans than it does to a kid. It's got a darker feel than A New Hope for one, but the real problem for me when I was younger was that this movie's plot didn't move like its predecessors. There's a huge lull in the middle of this movie where Han and Leia are fleeing from the Empire, and Luke is on Dagobah, that is admittedly vital to the plot, but as a kid with a non-existent attention span, I couldn't stay engaged with this movie from start to finish the way that I could with A New Hope. But that's neither here nor there because I'm not a kid anymore, so let's get into what I like and what I could do without in The Empire Strikes Back. Start with any negative, end with the positive. Again, pretty much everyone agrees that this movie is awesome, so any critique I give probably has a million counterpoints, but these are just the things that come to mind when I try to find problems with this movie. First things first. The separation of Han, Leia, and Luke during this movie. I get that it served a purpose. Luke was training, and Han and Leia were busy falling in love or whatever, but after watching A New Hope, I really feel like we miss out on what made Star Wars great. The friendship between Luke and Han, we only see them together in like one scene of this movie, which kind of sucks. The other negative thing that I'm going to point out about The Empire Strikes Back goes back to that lull that I mentioned earlier. In A New Hope, we were moving non-stop, but not just for the sake of moving. The characters were constantly doing something important that moved the story forward, whereas in this one, it feels like we're just waiting. Most of this movie is just filler. Yeah, Luke has to train, so we show him training in like 2 scenes. Han and Leia have to fall in love, so we make them hide in an asteroid that turns out to be a giant space worm. But what are the real stakes or implications of what happens in this movie? There's really just the reveal that Vader is Luke's father, and Luke loses his hand. Han getting frozen in carbonite really isn't a big deal since they unfreeze him in the first 15 minutes of Return of the Jedi. Basically, I'm just saying that in A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, the stakes were much higher, and I get that Empire was meant to be a personal story about characters, and the specifics of what they were doing didn't matter as much. I'm just saying that the movie really didn't have any consequences. Alright, so what were a few of my favorite aspects of The Empire Strikes Back? The relationship between Han and Leia, for one, takes up a lot of the movie, so it's necessary that it be handled well, which it was. This is Lawrence Kasdan at his best. Everyone can relate to the dialogue between the characters. This love story is the exact opposite of what we saw in Attack of the Clones. This movie still got a lot of humor, like A New Hope. Some of my favorite moments are with R2 and Yoda in Dagobah. Frank Oz's ability to turn this puppet into one of the most iconic characters of all time is incredible. I thought Billy D. Williams did a great job with Lando in both this movie and the next, so no complaints there. And after the mediocre lightsaber fight that we got in A New Hope, this one looks awesome. The whole sequence is legitimately scary, and even has a jump scare. The last thing I'll mention is the ending of this movie. A New Hope gave us a black and white, good beats evil kind of cookie-cutter ending, whereas The Empire Strikes Back leaves us uncertain what's going to happen, and if everyone's going to make it out of this alive. It's definitely a more adult movie than the other two in this trilogy. So that's all I got. It may not be my personal favorite to watch, but I can't deny that this movie is as close to perfect as Star Wars has ever gotten. But still, these reviews are supposed to be representative of my personal preferences and opinions, so I'm not going to say that this is the best, because it's not my favorite. The Empire Strikes Back scores a 90%. Yes, that's lower than the score I gave A New Hope, and I think it makes sense. Let me know what you think in the comments below, leave a like if you did, subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.